Have you ever thought about just how big a manga magazine can be? Because I just recently picked up a gigantic manga magazine, and I mean, like, this thing is huge, and I was not expecting it because when I used to collect Shonen Jump back in the day, when they had the Shonen Jump magazine, they were never really that big per se. I think they were usually like around 350 to 400 pages, which is still a lot, but like in comparison to some of the stuff they released in Japan, they're nothing. And lo and behold, we got a really big magazine to show off. Hello everybody, this is That Manga Dude, and welcome to a very different and kind of special video because I just recently went up to Northern California, got to visit family, got to celebrate a quinceañera, which was really nice, yeah, as I was heading towards the airport, one of my friends had picked up a very special magazine for me since I was not able to do it, and I thank them so much for getting it for me, so thank you so much, you know who you are, and it's the wonderful limited edition, only one, I think, allegedly, one set, or like one copy that they're gonna make of this. This is the first ever young magazine by Kodansha in America. Look at this thing. It is gigantic. It's a special issue for older teens, allegedly. It's got some cool little bonuses for Clamp Series special sticker sheet and the Ghost in the Shell wall poster, which I will show in just a bit. But yes, this magazine is really cool. One, because it's a celebration of Young Magazine as a magazine in general. 45 years of awesome manga releasing with Akira, Ghost in the Shell, and a variety of other fantastic works coming out of this magazine. And yeah, it's the first time we've ever gotten it in English, which is really cool, at least English published like this. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the magazine itself, at least this specific release. Like I said, this is for the 45th anniversary. There's the spine there. Gosh, it's so big. This magazine is gigantic. It doesn't even fit all the way into the screen, and apologies, but it's kind of how it's going to be for this. So yeah, let's go through the beginning first. So we got the sticker sheet here featuring manga, like we got Triple X Holic up on the top here. We have Chobits, which I've never read, but I know of. I think this is more Triple X Holic, more Chobits. Actually, you know, I think it's only those two, and then Chobits and yeah, Triple X Holic here. Coming in here, we have ourselves the poster, which is kind of cool. So I'll try to show that on the screen. There we go. Looks really neat. And then obviously a ton of manga to check out and read, which, if you don't know, you can read online. And that's why this is a very special magazine because, like I said, there is a 16 manga that are in 16 chapters that are in this magazine. And of those 16 chapters are basically up for a vote. The top 5 will receive English prints and English print releases, and the series will continue on in English. So what makes this magazine really special, like I said, it's basically like an audition for these 16 different mangaka. A couple that we've gotten in English before, maybe it's just one, I think it's just one, but it's really exciting to have this magazine, and this video is going to be all about talking about and ranking the manga that are in this magazine that are up for the voting. If you want to vote, there is a QR code in the back of this, if I remember correctly. Let me just make sure that you can always use. It's right there, but you can also go online. I think the website is also in the back here. No, it's not. But if you look up Weekly Young Magazine United States or US, you will be able to find it, and you'll be able to see what you can vote for. Obviously, I will be ranking them from my least favorites to favorites, and it's going to be really fun. I also want to note there are four series, or 4, whatever you want to call it, that are featured that are not up for voting. They're just from classic like mangaka that have been in the magazine before or are really popular and decided to release different volumes. That is The Silent Forest from Masaki Nakayama, who's the mangaka behind PTSD Radio and Fuan no Tane, I believe is what it's called. Pretty creepy little work, typical of his, if you've ever read his stuff, typical of his stuff. We also have the first chapter of Under Ninja from Kengo Hanazawa, which is actually released by Denpa, of all things, here in English, and so you can read the first chapter here for free. There's also Subaru and Subaru from Shuichi Shigena, that is the mangaka behind Initial D, and it's the first chapter to his newest work. And then last but not least, we have Me and Bob Dylan and My Father from Shuzo Oshimi, which is more of a biographical manga talking about Shuzo Oshimi's relationship with Bob Dylan, as well as how that connects with his father. So yeah, 4 interesting works, 4 very different works, and I did enjoy, obviously the ones I've never read before. I've already read Under Ninja, so I kind of already had opinions on it, but the other 3 were really great to read for the first time. So yeah, that's it for this part. We're going to start ranking the chapters of the votable series now. Okay, so how this is going to work, I'm going to give you just a quick little synopsis for the most part, and why it's ranked where it's ranked, and yeah, and I will give you the creators as well. So first up, number 16 goes to Protocol Ryugu from Daisaku Sudu. This is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi series that features basically these people that have been relegated to the ocean, and it's about their revenge and trying to get back at these people who are living on the land. And I thought overall the story was kind of an interesting concept. It's just that it doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere personally. I didn't really like some of the designs here and there, and I think the art's a little bit rough, but I think there is an interesting story and concept there that could definitely maybe take some refining, and I think will be a really good series at some point. Coming up to number 15, that is My Love Strange from Hikari Azuma. This follows a story about a girl who's always like never really felt any kind of connection in terms of like romance towards a human or boys in general, but only to her teddy bear until one day she meets someone who's always struggled, I guess, like with kind of expressing themselves and being who they really are. So they decide to wear this kind of like rabbit slash like bear suit. I think it's a rabbit. To be honest, I'm not like 100% sure because I never really say what it actually is. But he wears like basically a suit, and she totally falls head over heels for him, and kind of feels this connection she's never felt before. So it's about her like pursuing that kind of relationship. So that one, it was just a little bit weird for me. I think it's like, once again, it's another one of those like kind of interesting concept. I do actually like the art. I think it's pretty good. But I don't know how I feel about like her character just like kind of going like head over heels for this character instead of like actively trying to become friends with them, which she ends up sort of kind of doing. But if you read it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's just, it wasn't really my thing, and that's totally okay. Coming in at number 14, that is The Graveyard Shift from Yoshimi Sato. Follows a story about this vengeful spirit who basically has like respawned after someone knocks over his like seal, and now he's going to go twist women's heads off because that's like, he was defeated by a woman back in the day. So he ends up meeting this robot girl, and it's about their like their tenuous relationship. I say relationship not necessarily as a romantic relationship, just a like kind of like, you just have to read it. But overall, I think it's like kind of an interesting story because he basically is reborn in this like kind of dystopian kind of sci-fi looking world, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, I just didn't like this one as much as the other ones. I think it's kind of fun. I think there's going to be some good stuff. The art is also really good. It's just, yeah, I liked a lot of the other stories a lot more. Coming into number 13, which I think might actually be considered a hot take, at least for people who have read it, and that is going to The Journey of a Dark Elf with Fading Powers from Daisuke Itabashi. This is a slice-of-life fantasy series, follows a story about this dark elf who is considered the most powerful mage of all time, and super powerful, but one day just completely disappeared off the face of the planet. We are eventually meets our main character, who is that dark elf, and as she's being chased by her like kind of like protege, the protege finds out that the dark mage, or the dark elf, has officially lost all of her magic, and she's not able to use magic anymore. So it's kind of like her trying to reconcile, and like also the mage, or the former mage, is trying to kind of just discover life for what it is. So it feels very much like Furiden, but I will say I ranked this one a lot lower than I think a lot of other people did, because I think the way that the story is going to go, which looks like it's going to go into kind of like a school life manga, just doesn't really work for me personally. Because I kind of like the idea of this dark elf just like kind of like shedding all of her magic stuff and just kind of focusing on like living life, and I just thought that would be a more interesting plot. More interesting plot. So it is what it is. But man, the art is absolutely gorgeous for that one, and definitely well worth reading just for that. Coming into number 12, we have ourselves Kiki Kai Kai from Kyuri Yamada. This is an action series, follows a story about this kid. It's kind of like a little bit awkward, a little bit weird, and yes, eventually he finds out that he is a yokai and has the ability to use yokai powers. So it's kind of about him trying to like figure that out and become strong and stuff like that. So pretty straightforward, very basic shonen like or shonen / seinen action series. Nothing too crazy, but it looks like it could be a lot of fun. Coming in number 11, we have ourselves Gouma, the blade that slaughters gods from Hiroki Ishizawa. This manga follows a story about like this like group of fighters known as the Gouma, who are basically there to attempt to defeat these gods that are causing problems for the people of Earth. It appears to be kind of like historical fantasy. I'm not too sure, to be completely honest, because it kind of looks like it is historical fantasy, and it looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. For me personally, I've never been a big fan of like the hyper realism style per se, and it kind of has that, but man, the action's really cool. The monster designs are also really solid, but yeah, just like the human designs are just a little bit too realistic for my personal taste, but it looks like it's gonna be a really cool story regardless. Coming in next, we have The Night of Blasphemy from Rei Kindo. This follows a story about this young man who's aiming to become a knight for his like kind of like religion, and like these knights basically are defeating this other, are attacking these other people who have a different ideology from them. So it's kind of like focusing the idea of like kind of like think of like a crusades but for manga, and that's kind of an interesting concept. I think it's like I think it could be really cool. I do think that like the main character isn't like that entertaining per se, but I do like the art. I think the overall story is actually really interesting, and even the world building within chapter 1 has already built up to make something that could be really, really cool. So I did enjoy that one. Alright, coming into number 9, we have ourselves Into the Dark from Henri Morikuma. This is like a horror action series that follows the story about these two kids who, while walking one day, get basically sucked into like this hellish world and with the guy's dog, and it's kind of like it's just really dark. It gets right into your face really quickly. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but it is very gory, very intense, and it looks like it could be a ton of fun. I don't know how I feel about what the story is going to be like, because that first chapter was super fast paced, so it was kind of like, whoa, just a lot of information kind of thrown at you really fast, and you don't really have time to process anything. But the art is really cool, and I think it could be really fun if it gets another chance. Alright, coming into number 8, we have ourselves To Dusk and Twilight from Robico. This is a vampire hitman comedy is what I listed it as, but basically it follows a story about this guy who looks like he's about to do something very bad. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And this girl comes and saves him, and she's like, yes, like, she is a vampire, and she's basically being chased after by debt collectors, and then as she gets saved by the man who she finds out is a hitman. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting like comedy. It looks like it might be a possible romance. This one I think is very, very funny. I do think that the possible romance is a little strange because they make it seem like the vampire girl is supposed to be teenage and the guy, the hitman, is supposed to be an adult. So that's a little weird, but the comedy is on point, and yeah, it would be kind of interesting to see. Hopefully, if it would continue to be released, I would hope it just sticks as a comedy and not a rom-com. Alright, coming into number 7, we have ourselves The Last Terran, which is actually the first series that gets featured in the magazine. And that is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi series from Hiroshi Takashige and Tatsumi Hitomoji. And it's a pretty interesting one. It's kind of like a mech kind of feels Gundam-esque in that way, where it feels like it's going to be like some kind of big space opera, dystopian kind of like sci-fi series, because the whole entire Earth is basically gone, and Earth is basically uninhabitable, and everybody kind of lives in like these colonies across the board. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting concept, and I think it could be really cool. It does have some really gorgeous art for that one. Coming into number 6, just missing out in my top 5. Number 6 goes to Fasciation, I believe is how you pronounce it, from Oga, and it follows a story about this like person named the Earth Mother, who basically is kind of like the guardian angel of this village, and she has like this kind of like strange ability that she can chop off her arm, which is like eventually turns or is made out of wood, and that wood is used by the villagers to help save their crops and do various other things. So kind of interesting concept. It feels feels very much like To Your Eternity in this kind of sort of kind of way, where it's like this remote village and like this like kind of strange tradition. But yeah, it follows the story of that Earth Mother and this little girl that she finds. It ends up like kind of adopting her, and it's about their story in this kind of strange, interesting, like supernatural world. So I think it's pretty cool. I would be excited to check that one out as well. Okay, coming into the top 5. So this would be the 5 manga that I'm going to be voting for in order to hopefully see them get a physical release, because it'd be super cool. Number 5 goes to Pregnant from Denshi Matsumoto and Keita Nishijima. This is a really, really creepy manga. It follows a story about this couple, and this guy is currently struggling with seeing like kind of his baby giving him like this super demonic like presence and saying that you need to kill off like these certain people, and I'll spare your daughter, or I'll spare your kid and your wife. And it's about like the horrifying like thing about that, and it's just super creepy and really nasty, and I think could make for a really interesting horror series that would be a lot of fun to read. Number 4 goes to Project Metalia, and that is from Yukito EY, and that is a sci-fi horror series where it follows a story about this doctor who is currently studying like various things about cyborgs and kind of like affecting bodies, but one day she just randomly disappears after there's a massive explosion on the moon. So this group is sent in to go find out what happened and try to save the doctor slash scientist. And as they come to find out that everything is not as it seems on this moon colony, and something very, very dangerous has now kind of appeared. So now they have to try to defeat this thing while also trying to figure out what it is in the first place. So it's a really interesting concept. I do like a dystopian sci-fi series. I do like a lot of sci-fi stuff in general. Obviously, it can be a lot of hit or miss for me personally, but I thought this one was really cool. I like the horror elements that are mixed in as well, and I think it could make for a really cool series. Now, coming in at number 3, I have Still You from Kami Nishio. This is a BL romance series. It follows a story about these two boys who at a young age end up kissing one another because they want to know what kissing feels like. Little do they know is that years later, they may or may not have feelings for one another, but one of them definitely has a for sure one-sided romance, but he doesn't know how to admit that. So it's kind of about them hopefully possibly navigating the relationship, and I just really like the concept. I really like the idea, and I kind of like how the chapter ends and how that feels like it's going to be a really cool series if it continues on. Number 2, Boys Run the Riot in Transition from Keito Gaku. This is the sequel to a series that I really enjoyed called Boys Run the Riot, which is about this boy who is a trans man who is kind of learning to express himself and trying to like find his identity, at least originally in Boys Run the Riot. So this is a sequel where he's in college and now kind of studying to officially push off his fashion design and his own kind of like just what he wants to do in life. And it just focuses a lot on like his identity and how he wants to go for surgery and how like that would affect like his parents' like thoughts about him and various other stuff like that. It's really well done. It's really well written, and it would be so cool to have the sequel series in English. And last but not least, my number 1 goes to Godmother from Rin Shimokawa. This follows a story about this girl who basically gets shipped off to Japan, where she had been studying and having like a great time, but like her father sends her off to go meet her grandmother, and lo and behold, she falls into this super interesting and kind of complicated, complex web of horror and just terrifying stuff. The art is absolutely gorgeous. The plot is really cool, and I'd be really interested in checking this one out. I think it has the ability to be a really great series. Just from the art alone, the story just looks like it could be something really interesting as well, whether it goes down more of the horror route, whether it goes into an action route, or goes more into the character drama. And yep, that's going to be it. Young Magazine. This thing is super cool, and you can read these online, like I said, in a variety of different places, so definitely just go look it up. Young Magazine US, and yeah, it was a lot of fun to read this, and I had a great time reviewing these series. If you get the chance, let me know in the comments below which ones you like the most and what you're going to be voting for. And you know what to do. You can like, you can comment, you can subscribe. Those are all amazing things, and I love it when you do it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!